Okay, very good. So we're going to get started here with our session. We've introduced our speakers. We have some more colleagues that will be coming on as well to kind of speak and jump in on the conversation. And since Melody kind of mentioned about passion, she mentioned about finding work, with the way that COVID has come and it has impacted our community, a lot of people had to rethink their work, how they were working. A lot of industries were impacted. The airline industry was impacted. Hospitality industry was impacted. The restaurant industry was impacted. The travel industry was impacted. Melody, when you saw all these things happening in your arena, what would you tell someone when they saw that the industry that they're working in is being negatively impacted by COVID? How would you walk alongside them to find their passion, something that they love to do?
Yes, good question, Brother Vance. I would say if we were to turn the clock back to 2020, at the beginning of this thing for us here in the States, I believe that we were all afraid. Like we had no idea what to expect with COVID. None of us knew whether our jobs were going to be secure. None of us knew, whether we were going to be able to rely on a paycheck. But what we discovered, and one of the things that I like to champion is that the workforce has power, because where the workforce is, that's where work gets done. And so in 2020, when we all had to, go to our homes and kind of shelter in place, what organizations had to do was find a way to allow those employees to continue to work so that their companies and the businesses, the restaurants and everything would not fold. And so COVID, to me, was a great eye opener. I think that it helped people to realize that they were more valuable than their employers had led them to believe. That they had more clout and that they had more power than they ever thought that they could. And I think that what COVID did was it helped us to face and to own up to how we really want to work and where we really want to work and when we really want to work. And I think that even, here in 2022, we're still experiencing the kind of fallout from that. I know that you all have heard about the great resignation, the big quit, where so many people they walked away from jobs because their jobs were not necessarily meeting their needs beyond a paycheck. And people just said, just going in and clocking in 5 days a week, 6 days a week, just for a paycheck, like it's not enough for me anymore. And, so I would just say for me, even though COVID has been a big disruptor, it really has been just an eye opener for so many in the workforce.
Right. And so as you were talking about the fact that many people had to reevaluate their work, and some people walked away from their jobs. Well, a lot of times, if you got bills, you got mortgage, you got a car note, you can't just walk away. Because if you do, somebody's gonna be knocking on your door, calling you saying, "Hey, where's my money?" So how can we continue to increase our wealth? And everybody, Lamont, you might want to jump in here. How can you increase your wealth, find your purpose? I mean, you want to be able to find work that you do, find your passion, but at the same time, you still got to pay bills. You got to pay bills. So how do you make that transition to continue to increase your wealth so that you can find work that is fulfilling? Anybody want to jump in on that?
I think Melonie will kind of parrot this because I think it's part of her journey as well, is that part of it was that a lot of people, even though some people maintained their current job, but they were able to get into what this gig economy that we talk about and trying to find the thing that they really enjoy doing. I mean, there's so many venues and opportunities online where if you are a crafter, if you are someone that has that skill to make things, that you can sell your things and your wares online. And if you're good at it and you work it as a business, a lot of people have found an opportunity to work their way from their supposed main thing to their side hustle. And you can do that gradually, just by taking the time and being very intentional, every day doing something to grow that other side that for a lot of people is really what they should have been doing in the first place. And oftentimes I tell students, people that if that's what you're truly supposed to be doing, then you're going to find a way to make that happen. Like I said, I work a lot with students, and one of the things I tell them, if you have something that you really want to do, there's very little reasoning that a parent can give all kind of reasons why you shouldn't do a thing. But at the end of the day, the way that our economy is working, the way that the job workplace is working now, there's virtually nothing that you can't do and still make a living at it. Back in the day, we were laughing the other day. I said, when I used to play Atari, and that's again, back in the day, my parents would say, son, you can't make a living, playing video games. You can't say that anymore, because they're kids that are making millions of dollars playing video games or showing people how to play video games. People watch people playing video games now, and they make money by you just watching. And so there's a lot of opportunities out there. And again, it's just a matter of being intentional and being, methodical with how you do that. And also, just kind of making sure you're doing it in a intentional way, a way that's going to make sense and not just haphazard. So I think there are some opportunities out there for people to continue to build wealth. If you just want to do that side hustle and your main job, or work it till you get your side hustle being your main job and your main level of income.
Right. And as you were talking, I think a lot of times as Americans, sometimes we don't understand that we can do 2 or 3 different things at the same time. You don't have to be Jamaican to have 4 or 5 jobs. You just need to have the idea that this is what I want to do. A lot of foreigners that come here, they'll sometimes work 2, 3, 4 jobs, go to school at night, because they're thinking, I want to take advantage of everything. Whereas many of us sometimes are thinking differently. If we can't get what we want when we want it, we're not gonna do nothing at all. We're gonna stay here, and that's not the good mindset. So what I'm hearing is there's a certain type of mindset you need to have in order to move forward, to transition when things are changing around you. But how do you I'm from the old school, I guess, where you find your job, you stay on that job for 20, 30 years, and you retire from that job. Put in a good day's work hard, and retire from there. And I'm hearing now, you mentioned the word gig workers, the gig economy, find your passion, and all these different things. That is a different mindset to have. So how do we, I guess, in terms of someone like me, a little older, how do we prepare the next generation to have it? Because I think I'm not going to be trying to do too much at this point. It's like, if I haven't done it by now, it's not getting done. But someone that may be a little younger, how do we prepare that next generation to handle their wealth and their life, their skills? Anybody want to jump in on that?
Yes, I want to share that I think, Brother Vance, just based on what you're saying, old school and your generation, that we really bought into that there really was one way, one path, and we were all put on that path. That path was you go to school, you get good grades, you go to college, you get a degree, you get a good job, and you work that job until you retire. And I think that what has happened is that, we realize that path doesn't work for all of us. And for those, that path doesn't necessarily work for, it can be the source of, a lot of frustration, a lot of, confusion, a lot of disappointment, because things don't work out that way for you. And so what I like to encourage people is that all of us were created with the ability to work. All of us can do something, and all of us have a desire to do something. And whether we have a job, whether we have a good job or not, doesn't take away the ability that I have to make a contribution to, the work or the world of work, and to earn an income with that. And so I just like to encourage people, do some introspection, look inside, ask yourself, what is it that I really want to spend my time doing? And then ask yourself, how can I go about doing that? How do I want to go about doing that? Do I want to do that on a 9-to-5? Do I want to do that as a self-employed individual? Do I want to contract myself out to do that? Do I want to just do it as a side hustle? Ask yourself those questions, and don't beat yourself up because you're not on that path of career to retirement. Just acknowledge that we all have our own paths, and that we all just have a responsibility to discover what it is that we have to offer, and to offer that. And I heard one person say, if you discover who you are, people will pay you to show up. And so I think that really is the key.
Good stuff. Anybody else want to jump in on that part about how to prepare the next generation with ideas that they can find work that they love? If they need to do some introspection, I think a prayer might be a good thing. Maybe you need to pray about, hey, what direction do I need to be going in with the talents and gifts that I have so that I can move in that direction? Anybody else want to jump in on that? How do we prepare that next generation?
I think you're on mute. You're on mute.
I'm so glad to hear Melonie express her point of view, because like you, Michael, I was on that same track. I'm old school as well. And but one of the things that I feel that has been really good is trying to have sessions like this, where you've got a variety of different people sharing information, putting it out there, letting everybody see. And one of the things that we're hoping is that by sharing what we know and giving other people an opportunity to share what they know, that others will become inspired, they will become empowered, and that there will be less people falling into the financial traps that have been set for our young people and older people as well. But just sharing like this and informing people is, I feel like, a very good way of preparing people.
Very good.
Yeah, just to kind of follow up on that, I think that with the advent of social media, we do have the opportunity to reach individuals and just reach a lot broader, networks and communities that we previously anticipated, right? And I think one of the things that maybe some of the newer generation recognizes that maybe the older generation doesn't, it's just how, once you put yourself out there, how often you can find a community that connects with your experience, connects with your viewpoint, and wants to hear more from you. And so sometimes it takes a little bit of courage to put yourself out there, and that first step of, I put this, like, maybe the first time you put it out there, there's maybe not a lot of, hits or a lot of views or whatever you're looking for, a lot of sales, but the consistency to keep showing up. I am reminded, or I think about this, I don't want to call him a social media comedian at this point, but Kev on Stage, many people may know, he started off just doing videos once a day. He was doing them like either in his house or like in his car while he was driving to his day job. I mean, and this was years ago. And he was just like, I'm gonna do a video every day. And he kept on consistently doing that. And he transitioned from just doing those videos to working for a social media or like an online platform, comedy platform, to now creating his own content, having his own company that produces content for others. And he's really become, in a sense, like I want to call him a mogul, but he has a name for himself and has really launched other individuals as well, and has created a platform not only for himself, but for others. And it just started with him consistently making one video a day while he was working in a bank. You know, he was just like, I hated that job. And I think he eventually got fired from it because he wasn't putting the effort into that job that he was doing in what he really wanted to do. But I think he stated how that just gave him the freedom to truly, you know, pursue his vision now. And you can see that it's coming to fruition now. But I don't think he thought, you know, initially when he started it, I'm going to be this mogul, this, you know, this guy that's doing all this. But the consistency that he showed provided these opportunities, and then he seized upon those opportunities, and has definitely had the opportunity to grow his business and his platform. So I think just starting with the consistency, putting yourself out there, and who knows where the opportunities come from, you know, once you're out there. But, you know, getting out there is sometimes the hardest part. And so I think encouraging, you know, our young people to if there's something that they are passionate about, to take some steps to actually put themselves out there. And I think that's one of the best things that they can do.
Any more thoughts on that?
Yes, I just want to piggyback off of what Michael Jr. just shared. And I think that I would describe it as commit. Just commit. Commit to, like you said with Kev on Stage, he committed to posting one YouTube video a day. You would be amazed at what will start to happen once you commit to moving toward whatever that thing is. It's just like you liking a particular car and deciding, hey, I think that that's the car that I'm going to purchase. And once you commit that, yeah, that's the car I like, that's what I'm going to purchase, you start to see that type of vehicle at every intersection, at every stop sign, around every corner, because something happens when you commit. It just ushers in just resources and experiences and opportunities. So just, you know, commit in whatever way commitment looks like to you.
Okay, that's good. I think that's a good thing. And I'm also hearing from both of you, there's a lot of extra energy that you're going to have to put in if you're trying to find something that you love to do. Because typically what I'm hearing high school parents tell their high school kids is that go get a college education. Now you're going to hear this, go before you find some passion, whatever that might, get you some college degree, something to fall back on. Make sure you get a skill so you can take care of yourself. And you don't hear parents saying, you know, go commit to your career, commit to what you want. No, they're saying, get a college degree because you're going to need that. My parents told me that whatever I did, I was going to have to be twice as good as my white counterpart. They said, whatever it is, if you go to school, you have to get good grades. What you do in life, you have to be twice as good. And that's the same thing as making a commitment. And when these young people run and get these college degrees, a lot of times they end up with debt that is following them around for decades. And they're not in the career sometimes that they were promised. What thoughts do you have today to help young people avoid getting these school loans and then not really getting the career that they've spent all this money in, and then having to pivot and do something totally different with these school loans following. Anybody want to jump in? Is it possible to get a degree and be debt free? Someone want to talk about that?
I'll say a couple of things about that. I was asked a question years ago by one of the young people that at the time I was the youth ministries leader at my church. And I don't remember what prompted the question, but they said, well, Mr. Dupree, does everybody have to go to college? And, you know, and you got that often, but so the answer I gave wasn't something that I thought about or contemplated on, but basically what I told him was, no, everybody doesn't have to go to college, but everybody needs to be educated. And so whatever form that education takes, you just have to make sure you're following that path, you know. So one of the things that's kind of cool and I'm watching this in some arenas now where you can go and get a certificate, you can get a associate's degree or get some type of certification, and it sets you up to be, you know, to do some really cool things and have a really decent income. You know, some of the 2-year programs where, you know, you can get where a Pell Grant. I know in our state we have a program where if you're trying to go into a program that's a high need area, high demand, high skill, high paying jobs, they will pay that school on your behalf for you to pursue that particular certificate or that particular degree. Nursing is one of those, you know, and there's some other health science programs, and there's some other, you know, other skill related programs. And it's just a matter of asking the question. And for a lot of young people, they, you know, of course, it's maybe an income-based thing, but a lot of times you may fall within that arena and be able to go and get this skill and not have to do a whole lot of college, a whole lot of other, I'm going to say fluff courses. It just puts you right there to teach you that thing. They want you to learn that thing. And then once you get there, oftentimes if you find a job that you can now pay for the next thing, there's a thing called stackability where you can become, for example, a phlebotomist, and now you can work in the area of phlebotomy, but now you have an income, but then you want to go on and get your associate's degree in nursing. And then, you know, from there you can go on and get your BSN, and then from there get your MSN. And then from there, if you want to get your, so there's a stackability that, you know, I knew nothing about, but there's, you know, we're trying to create off ramps where you can keep on going down this path, but you can get off and come back on and keep moving. And so it's just a matter of making sure you have a plan. I was talking with another young lady that's getting ready to graduate from her 4-year program, and her goal is, she said she needs to get 3 jobs. So she said she needs to she's going to work at one place, work at another place. And there was one thing that she was going to do that was going to kind of, I guess, fund the other things, because what she really wants to do is go into entertainment. And she recognizes that entertainment is a challenging game to get into. And so she said, in the meantime, I know I need to do this, but I also have these other things that's going to put me in, I guess, contact with the people and the opportunities. So when those opportunities kick off, then I can let go of this other thing and keep it moving. So, but she has a plan. And I was like, I couldn't argue with her plan. You know, her parents are not necessarily on board with everything, but she has a plan. And that's what a lot of kids don't necessarily do. They just say, I'm going to go off and be, you know, a star. Well, you know, it doesn't happen for everyone, and you got to have a plan. And I think that's key.
Right, right. And I'll just piggyback on that. A plan is important. And I think you've got to start early, you know. Don't wait until you get to your senior year to start planning. You know, 9th grade, 10th grade, start thinking about what are some of the things that I really, you know, want to do? What interests me? What does it take for me to be able to do that? Do I need a degree? Do I need a license? Do I need a certification? And so what I say is, once you have an idea of what it is that you want to do and what it's going to take for you to be able to do it, then you know the path that you need to take. And if college is indeed that path, then, get with your school counselors. That's what they get paid to do, is to help you find scholarships, so that you don't necessarily have to rely solely on loans. And if you qualify, of course, you've got your Pell Grants and things of that nature. But there are just so many scholarships out there that go unclaimed, because people don't apply for them. So have a plan early, and then use those that are available to you to help you figure it out, and to, access the resources that will help you.
I'm reminded of my own experience when you were talking about planning early, not waiting till your senior year to plan. When I was in 8th grade, my father told me, when you graduate from high school, when you turn 18, you've got 3 options. You can go to the military, you can go just get a job, at McDonald's or something else, or you can go to college. Like, those are your 3 options. But at 18, like, you need to figure out which one you want to do, right? And this was in 8th grade when I was given this speech, and and so from there, you're like, okay, well, I don't want to go to the military. I don't want to be working at McDonald's, and so you start to to think about, okay, what am I going to do, when it gets to that point, right? Instead of, senior year, second semester, oh man, what am I about to do? So this was, in the works from middle school. And so throughout high school, my parents were definitely encouraging me or having me consider, what are going to be my post high school plans. They made it a point to have me focus on, certain things. One of the important things, the most beneficial to me in particular, was taking the PSAT as a junior, because that is one of the best ways to qualify for certain scholarships. And was able to be a part of the National Merit Scholarship Program because I performed well in the PSAT, but they had me, studying PSAT books. Like, we're on vacation and I have my book and I'm, having to study while we're on vacation. And I can remember having conversations with my friends, they're like, yo, you studying? Like, it's summer, man. Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, I got to, like, it's my parents said, right? And at the time, I don't know that I truly appreciated it. But I was obedient. I was a wonderful child, and I did what my parents told me to do, followed instructions, all that kind of stuff. And so I did it, and I've been able to reap the benefits of that now. But a lot of it took my parents encouraging me, but also that point, just thinking about what it is that I wanted to do. Because I could have just said, I don't care about nothing about this school. Like, I'll just get a job and kind of do what I want. But having an idea of what you wanted, and I've changed my idea. At one point, I was going to be an accountant. I'm not an accountant. But there was something that I was at the time thinking about going towards. And so I do think it's important to start early and thinking about what it is that you do need to, what steps you do need to take, because college may not be necessary. I have friends who are very gifted in the arts, photography, for instance, and didn't go to school, but have spent, countless hours, perfecting their craft in photography, whether it's taking shoots, like when they were getting paid very little, just like doing everything that they can to develop their skills in not just graphic design, but, photo editing, like lighting, like all of these things. And that now, like, this guy, he shoots for, magazines and all these other things, and he's made a name for himself. And, it took him committing to that path, and putting his time and effort into that. And at the time, it was like, yo, you trying to do this photography thing? But that's really what he wanted to do. And he put his effort in there, and he's definitely seeing the results of that. So just to your point, Melonie, like, understanding what it is, it may not take a 4-year degree, it may not take a certificate, it just takes a skill set to show people that you're developing in this area, and that you have a passion for it and that you're really growing in that. And sometimes, people bring you along, give you advice, let you shadow them, give you advice, all those sort of things. So I think it's just really understanding what it is that you want to do and having that clear vision of what it is that you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and can I add something else here? I say, and I think that you all would agree, that God is so benevolent and compassionate, and he knows the plans that he has for us. And so even when we don't know, God knows. And I am just so thankful that God will put people in our path, or he'll bring about certain situations in our lives that help us kind of figure it out. In my case, in high school, and throughout school, I was a pretty good student, A, B student, loved school. But beyond high school, I just really didn't have any plans. I had not given any consideration to what I wanted to be when I grew up. But what happened to me is that I received an academic scholarship. And when I received that academic scholarship, it was like, oh, well, I guess I'm going to college. And so had that event not happened, had God not orchestrated that event in my life, I don't know, where I would be, or, how things would have panned out. But God is just so good and just so benevolent, and he knows the plans he has for us, and he wants us to accomplish what he put us here to do. And so he will orchestrate events. He will put people in our path. Because this work thing, it's his idea. This work thing is his big idea for us. So he has a responsibility as well. So.
And I want to piggyback one more thing. I'm sorry. When you were saying putting people in your path or people, one of the things that I just remember because like I said, like now I'm an attorney, I had no plans to be an attorney or anything like that. And it's not necessarily specific to me becoming an attorney, but just thinking about what it is that I wanted to accomplish. I remember just the people that I grew up with, whether it was teachers, whether it was youth leaders, like Lamont, who like encourage you could become, whatever it is that you want. Like you're talented, you're smart. Like if you just put your mind to something, you can accomplish it. And so you never underestimate the impact that you can have on, speaking life into someone, encouraging them. And so it may not be that you have the wisdom to actually get them there, but your encouragement, can be what encourages someone at the time where they're unsure, like, no, I can do this. I can keep pushing, or I want to accomplish something. I want to do more for myself, or do better, or transition. And so that sense of encouragement or a sense of empowerment they can have just from remembering the things that they've been told throughout the years. And so I just wanted to acknowledge the people that have been in my life that have encouraged me throughout the years. And so I think that we can't underestimate the power of our encouragement, or our ability to be encouraging and be empowering to others. So
I agree with you. One of the things that when I grew up, my father had not been able to, he wanted to go to college, but because of their economic situation, he wasn't able to do that. He wanted his children to go to college. And so at a young age, I wanted to be a teacher. And the only way you could be a teacher was to go to college. So I purposed in my heart that I was going to go to college. And when we grew up, kind of like what Michael said, when you got 18, you were grown. So when I graduated from high school, I graduated from high school at 17. I still had a few more months before I became 18. I immediately got a job because I'm going to college, and I'm saving up my money. I'm going to college, and I figured that I was grown. What surprised me was that the government and financial aid did not consider me grown. And what I had to do in order for them to acknowledge that I was grown, I had to financially emancipate myself from my parents and become solely self-supporting. And that way I was able to I had a scholarship, but it only covered tuition. I needed more money for room and board. And so I was able to do that. In the meantime, though, I'm on a work study program. I'm working 20, 21 hours a week. I'm carrying 16 to 20 hour credits. You know, I'm working and working. I started out working in a cafeteria, and I would have to start working as early, sometimes at 6 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes I would work till like 8 o'clock at night because I'm fluctuating it in between my classes. So I go to work, I go to class, I go back to work, I go to class. And one of the things that Melonie said about the Lord, how faithful he is. I was so tired sometimes in class that I would fall asleep. And the Lord would wake me up. I'm serious. The Lord would wake me up at a time when I needed to wake up and hear what my professor was saying. It was like the professor was speaking in my ear, yelling. I would wake up, I would write down what the professor said at that particular time, and I would fall back out of sleep. And later on, when I would check my notes and I would go over my notes, almost everything that was on my notes was on the test. That's just how faithful the Lord was, in helping me get through college. Now, I graduated from college 50 years ago, but I still believe that there are students like me who are graduating debt-free, but it's different now. I hear Lamont talking about the different ways, and Melonie talking about it, and Michael Jr. talking about it. The thing is, though, you do need a plan, and you do need to be intentional. It doesn't just happen because you wake up and say, I think I want to go to college. Because out there, what they're going to do is they're going to offer you the loans, and there are too many people who are graduating with debt that they're going to be paying for the rest of their lives. And I didn't want that for myself or my son, my children.
Right. So the ideal is to look at college, the plan as soon as possible, get support from people around you, talk to people, and to move forward with a plan. Because I think college isn't for everyone, because I do think there's some people that should be entrepreneurs. They should have run their own business. There's some people that have been given certain types of gifts, whether they're in the arts, they're very creative. Fred Hammond, who's a gospel singer, tells his story of how he just learned to play bass on his own. He taught himself how to play bass by listening to music, playing every day. And then he said that he started playing for a group called the Winans. And he said he was their bass player. And he played the bass for the Winans, he said, for 19 years before he started commission. And he said when he first started playing for the Winans, they were paying him $350 a gig. So every night they would go out, he paid $350. He said, but the Winans was told as business people that they were paying them too much. So they dropped it down to $175 a gig. And then they dropped it down to $100 a gig. Then they dropped it down to $50 a gig. And so he said he was playing for the Winans, making $50 a night. He was on welfare, getting stuff. He couldn't support himself, but he wanted to play for this group. It was his gift. He knew he needed to do that. And he didn't want to leave them. He felt it was a calling. And he struggled for 19 years until he started his own group. That's passion, that's commitment, that's being gifted. And I don't know if I want to struggle like that. It ain't coming, that's a little bit too hard for me. Look, I need to do something else. Lord, this is not it, And so how would you encourage someone to start their own business or to support a successful business that honors God? Because I believe that if you're starting a business on your own, or you could find other business people in your community that are hiring our people, how can we support businesses that honor God or start business? Anybody want to jump in on that?
I think part of it is recognizing that, you know, if you're a Christian, your ministry is not, you're in ministry. Let me just say that. Your life should be some type of ministry. And so part of your life ministry may be and should be your whatever you do. So if it's to start a business on your own, of your own, you got to find a way, okay, how am I going to honor God in what I'm doing? And that starts with having a high integrity, you know, recognizing and acknowledging that if, you know, that God is in it, and then committing to trust that wherever he leads you in that business and how to run it, that you're going to follow that. Again, I think it starts with integrity, that you're not going to, you know, try to circumvent the process and do things that you know that you think are the ways to get ahead, that may not be just above board, but you know, I can get away with it. So I think it starts with integrity and maintaining that and trusting what you're trying to do, your visions, your dreams, to God, and allowing him to open those doors and give you the vision of where those doors, those windows, those opportunities are, and then asking him to have the courage to follow through. Because often it's not, you know, starting a business, having a business is not for the faint of heart. And, you know, there are some ways that there are some times where people start things and they take off and they immediately become successful. But then there's some other things that it takes time to marinate, and you have to work at it and work at it and work at it. But if you trust that this is what God's plan is for you, then you got to trust that he's going to move you in the direction that he needs you to go in order for you to be successful. Because like Melonie said, work was his idea. I mean, outside of, you know, after he created the animals and the trees and everything else, when he created man, the first thing he told him was to work. He had to get out there and work, and then he created marriage, and then he created all these other things. But work was one of the first things that he first of all, he modeled it, because, you know, 6 days God created, and then the seventh day was the rest day. But he is the one that created this thing, and so he's going to want you to be successful in it.
Okay, I heard LaTonia Powers came in, one of our partners. And LaTonia, do you want to jump in on this conversation? You run a business, Storehouse Financial Services. Talk about how you started your business and how you run your business as a Christian business.
Yes, hi. I would first encourage individuals who are interested in starting a business, start with what you have. You know, what your talents, your gifts, your interests, whatever.
And you may need to mute her then, because she doesn't hear that we're having problems.
Right, Michael, can you mute her for right now? And what I'll read Tanya's bio. She sent me a bio because her bio says, I am many things to people. Today, I am LaTonia Powers, the professional businesswoman. Storehouse Financial Management Services, LLC, opened in 2009 at the height of the economic crisis. Many questioned the decision to open a business at that time, but I felt a strong pull to leave my 9-to-5 to start a company that would support small businesses in their quest to become financially successful. I believe that small business is the backbone of the U.S. economy. I also believe that, like Egypt, under the direction of Joseph in Genesis chapter 41, business owners have the responsibility to not only support their own household, but they have the responsibility to run their businesses in a way that supports their communities. Financial literacy is the first step to taking on that responsibility. I use what I've learned earning a master's degree in accounting and in my practice as an accountant, tax preparer, and a road agent to help business owners understand the basic concepts of financial literacy and compliance as it relates to their business. My primary objective is to free them of the mental burdens associated with financial compliance issues so they can focus on building their businesses, supporting their families and communities. And I want to say that what I'm hearing her say is that I'll do all the tax stuff for you, the number stuff, and then you run your business, whether it's photography, whether it's a musician, whether it's plumbing, whatever that is. Let me handle this so you're not racking your brain over this. I'll do this. I support you in what you're doing as a small business. And so a lot of time what we have to learn in our community is how to bounce our money in our community several times before it bounces outside of our community. And so other communities learn how to do that. If you go into a Korean community, their money bounces several times before it goes outside of their community. It's supporting their community over and over before it leaves. And so what we have to do is have the same type of mindset in terms of small businesses, startup, supporting businesses that honor God. We have to learn to look at our brothers and sisters and say, how can we support your business so that our money bounces in our community around? We're helping one another grow our business before it bounces out of the community. And that way, over the long run, our community gets stronger together. And one of the disadvantages of integration was that during segregation, because I was born, I'm probably one of the older people on this thread right now, but I've seen what they call separate but equal, which really wasn't separate or equal. You know, you had white restrooms and colored restrooms, white fountains and colored fountains, that kind of thing. And during segregation, the Black community money bounced in that community over and over before it went out. When integration came, then the money started bouncing out of our community, and we have not been as strong as we were back then. That was one thing that wasn't a good thing for our community. And so when we think about starting businesses and supporting Christian businesses now, it takes a different type of mindset. When you can have, be, and do everything you want to do, sometimes you don't think about how can I reach back and support folks that are coming along. I'm hoping that this conversation that we're having today might be a dialogue that can help individuals in their financial quest to be stable and also to help stabilize our community and to help our young people be able to see the vision of what it's like to have a strong community, because it really does take a village, I think, to grow economy, and it takes a village for us to all to grow together. I want you each to think about it. I want you to have some closing thoughts. I'm going to go right down the line here. Each of you give us some closing thoughts, really a little bit after 6. And if LaTonia can come back in at the end, see if we can hear. Okay. Lamont, would you give us some closing thoughts on financial literacy and economic empowerment?
Yeah, man. One thing that I always share whenever I get an opportunity, especially on a forum like this, is something that was shared with me that helped me. And it said, there's a saying that says, you know, if you find the thing you love to do, you'll never work a day in your life. And to me, that doesn't necessarily mean it won't be work. It just means that, you know, it won't be like heavy, I don't want to do this, don't want to get out of bed in the morning type of work. But it'll be something that you're enjoying, the sweat equity and the challenges that come along with it, because you feel compelled that this is what you're supposed to be doing. And you'll find enjoyment and pleasure in that thing. And so, you know, I would just say, you know, financial empowerment at the end of the day is being able to allow God to give you wealth, because, you know, the word does say, you know, he is the one that gives us wealth. And so trusting that and knowing that promise is there, that, and I know, Mike, you always say that wealth is not necessarily just financial. It's wealth in health, is wealth in relationships, is wealth in all these other things. And so often we characterize just one thing, but God desires us to be successful. He desires for us to find life fulfillment. And if we're doing that, then part of the natural outgrowth of that is financial peace, and finding that peace that comes with being able to have control of everything, and allowing, trusting that God is going to allow us to be good stewards of whatever he gives us, whether it be our talents, whether it be our money, whether it be our time. And so now I just want to encourage those persons that may listen and out there to just anticipate God doing that in your life, as long as you're doing your part, and just trusting that his grace is going to be sufficient.
Great. Michael Jr., would you like to give some closing thoughts?
Sure. I think the biggest thing that I would encourage everyone to have is just intentionality. I think with financial empowerment, financial literacy, just how you spend your money, how you think about just being intentional, having a plan, following the plan, how you support business, small businesses or Black-owned businesses, is being intentional as well, right? I think it's got to be something that you want to do and that you have to have a plan, because I think sometimes it's convenient to do things. I wouldn't say it's convenient. Sometimes it's convenient to not have a budget, maybe until the end of the month, and then you're like, oh, this would have been, sometimes your bills might catch up on you. But I think it takes a level of intentionality to truly take your wealth building or your business to the next level. And so that's what I would just encourage everyone, is to be intentional, to be consistent. And yeah, that's what I have.
Awesome. Ardella Vance, your closing remarks.
As I listen to everyone, I want to say, yes, I piggyback on everything that everybody has said. And one of the things that I would like to add is be intentional about acquiring knowledge. There is no excuse for ignorance in this day and time. The information is out there. Make yourself available. Go out there and seek it. And I really do believe that the Lord will bless you as you go out and seek to do what he wants you to do, and learn as much as you can, and then make whatever choices that you need to make. You will have options available to you. Pray about it and have let the Lord help you make the right choices, and you won't go wrong.
All right, very
That's
good.
my final thought.
Melonie Gurley, final thoughts, please.
Wow, there's so much I could say. This has really been a good session, and I want to just say thank you again for inviting me. I've enjoyed listening to all of the different perspectives, so much that I'm taking away from today as well. But if I would have to narrow it down to maybe a couple things, I would say the worst thing that you can do is to do nothing. Right? Like, think about the parable of the talent, the parable in the Bible where that one servant took the gift that he received and he dug a hole and he buried it because he was too afraid to try. We look at success as arriving at a certain destination. But I just want to encourage everyone to rethink success and redefine success. Have a goal and consider success the progress that you make towards it. And as long as you're making progress toward that goal, you're working the plan that you have, then you are succeeding. And to have faith that God is on your side. And he would not have given you skill, he would not have given you knowledge, he would not have given you ability if he did not intend for you to use it. And so as long as you are making progress toward that goal, then you are succeeding.
Awesome, very good. Is LaTonia Powers, can you come back and give us some closing thought? We had some technical difficulties hearing your voice earlier. Are you available? Can you hear? Would you try again?
Is this better? Hopefully this is a
Yes,
better.
yes,
Okay, good. I'm sorry I had to find a good location and it kept dropping out. Anyway, I really appreciate what you all do with Stewardship of Wealth and having these economic empowerment sessions. One of the things that we talk about often is the lack of knowledge in our community about, financial literacy. And oftentimes even the opportunities to gain, that knowledge that we can use to get ourselves in a better financial position. So thank you, first of all, for your consistency in providing, avenues for that kind of knowledge to be obtained. And like Ardella said, a lot has been said about intentionality. And that is probably, in my opinion, one of the most important things. The things that I was saying earlier about the business, and it applies with your finances as well, is to start with what you have. We don't have to acquire things too quickly. And that's where we get into trouble with debt, whether it's in school or if it's in business or just in life itself. Start with what you have and learn to be content with those things while you build on those things, and acquiring more knowledge as to how to do that effectively. One of the scriptures that came to mind for this was 2 Peter 1:6. And is where Peter exhorted believers to make every effort to add to your faith goodness, and to goodness knowledge, and to knowledge self-control. And when we talk about our finances in any space that we're talking about them in, avoiding debt is a matter of self-control. I want to go to school, but how can I do that without acquiring, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt? I want to start a business. How can I do that without acquiring hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt? I want to go on vacation. All of these things where we talk about intentionality. Intentionality involves self-control, plan on these things. Write out your plan as how you're going to, step by step, and have your milestones until you reach that space. And that would be my takeaway, and my contribution to this conversation.
very good. Thank you so much. This has been rich experience for me, hearing the different mindsets, thoughts of the leaders that's on this thread right now. Many of you have shared some very powerful information, I think life-changing information. And so we want to be able to share this information with our community. I would love to do a follow-up to this. I would really love to do a follow-up because I think there's much more that needs to be said. We just kind of touched the tip of the iceberg, the access to it. Again, thank you all so much for being part of this team, sharing your time with me, your time with our audience. I think God has great things planned for us. This is needed. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you later. Remember, keep praying, keep believing with God. All things are possible.